June 1947, Strait of Malacca. The ocean stretched endlessly under a shroud of mist, whispering secrets to the ships that dared to cross it. Merchant vessels navigated cautiously, radar screens flickering in the humid night. It was a routine night until the first SOS crackled through the static. "Mayday! Mayday!" The voice was weak, broken by heavy static, almost frantic. "This is the Ourang Medan. We float." All officers, including the captain, dead, lying in charge room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Then silence. On the bridge of the nearby Silver Star, the crew froze. The radio operator glanced helplessly at Captain Baker. Another burst of static spat out the final chilling words. "I die." And then, nothing. The bridge fell into a stunned hush. Captain Baker snapped into action. "Plot their coordinates. Get us there. Now." Engines roared. The ship changed course. Whatever had happened aboard the Ourang Medan, they were now duty-bound to find out. No one spoke. The radio operator's hands shook as he noted one final anomaly. The Ourang Medan hadn't appeared on any maritime registry. Officially, it didn't exist. 1:45 a.m. The mist thickened as the Silver Star approached the coordinates. And then, looming out of the gloom, there she was. The Ourang Medan floated listlessly on calm waters. No running lights. No movement. Like a tomb adrift. The boarding party readied themselves. 6 men, including Lieutenant Charles Turner, carried flashlights, ropes, and sidearms, though none of them believed weapons would help against whatever had left that desperate SOS behind. As they approached, Turner noted several things at once. The ship had no visible damage. The hull showed no battle scars, no signs of fire. But the deck was eerily deserted. And the closer they came, the colder the air grew. Turner later swore. "It was like walking into a freezer. I could see my breath in front of me." In June, in the tropics, they boarded. The wood of the deck was slick with condensation. Their boots echoed on the empty planks. Then they found the first body. A sailor lay sprawled face up, arms twisted grotesquely, mouth frozen in a rictus of terror. His eyes stared skyward as if witnessing something beyond human comprehension. More bodies followed. Everywhere. On the deck, slumped against the bulkheads, near the railings, sailors frozen in terror, their faces contorted, mouths open wide in silent screams. None bore wounds. None had tried to fight. They simply died. Turner's stomach clenched. Whatever killed them wasn't human. Captain Baker's corpse sat stiffly in the command chair, one hand still on the wheel, the other clutching the ship's logbook to his chest. The log was soaked through with condensation, the ink smeared into black blots. Unreadable. Turner reached out to pry it loose and froze. The captain's skin was ice cold. He jerked his hand back instinctively. A low groan echoed from somewhere deep below decks, like the ship itself was in pain. The crew looked at each other. Was it the metal contracting in the cold? Or was something alive down there? As they descended into the bowels of the ship, flashlights cutting through the gloom, they noticed it. The temperature was even lower. Turner exhaled, vapor billowed out like smoke. The engine gauges were iced over. Pipes rimed with frost. Impossible in this climate. The bodies here were even worse. Engineers lay sprawled over their consoles, faces blue, hands clawed. One man's hand was frozen around a hammer, mid-swing, as if he had been fighting something or someone. Still, no wounds. No blood. Turner's flashlight flickered. Then they heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Muffled. Rhythmic. From below the cargo hold. "Someone's alive," Turner said grimly. He motioned for 2 men to follow. They made their way into the lower decks. The tapping grew louder. A faint metallic thud, like someone banging on a bulkhead. Desperate. Alive. As they rounded a corner, Turner's flashlight beam caught something scratched into the wall. "Death awaits." The letters were jagged, gouged deep into the steel with something sharp. They had been carved in a frenzy. Suddenly, slam. A hatchway door blew open and a blast of freezing mist roared out. Lights flickered. Men shouted. And then, the tapping stopped. Turner staggered back, heart hammering in his chest. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. He forced the hatch open wider, shining his beam inside. The cargo hold yawned before him, an empty cavern of darkness. No cargo. Only a few broken crates and the smell of ozone, like after a lightning strike. The mist clung to the ground, swirling around their boots. And far at the back of the hold, barely visible, something moved. A shape. Low to the ground. Slithering. Watching. Turner stumbled backward, yelling for retreat. The boarding party scrambled up the ladderways, back to the deck. The Silver Star's captain, watching from his ship, saw the panic and ordered the line cut immediately. No one questioned it. Minutes later, as the Silver Star pulled away, the Ourang Medan gave one final groan and exploded. A massive blast ripped through the night, throwing debris skyward. The freighter burned fiercely, sinking into the black depths of the Malacca Strait. There would be no recovery, no evidence, only rumors, and one final mystery. In the Silver Star's medical bay, Turner found deep, strange burns across his arms, burns that weren't there before, and they itched terribly. June 1947, aboard the Silver Star. The Ourang Medan was gone. The sea swallowed the burning freighter, and the darkness returned to the Strait of Malacca, thick and silent. The crew of the Silver Star stood in stunned silence, watching the last flames hiss out. There would be no survivors. No explanation. Captain Baker ordered the men below deck. Debrief. Medical check. Nobody talks until I say. Turner sat stiffly in the ship's infirmary. The burns on his arms throbbed with a dull, radiating heat. Small, strange blisters peppered his skin, tiny, almost geometric in shape. The ship's doctor, an old Navy medic named Harris, dabbed the burns and frowned. Electrical. Harris muttered. Friction burns? Cold burns? I don't know what the hell this is. Turner didn't answer. He just stared at his own hands, flexing them, feeling a prickling sensation crawling under the skin. He wasn't the only one injured. 3 other crewmen who had boarded the Ourang Medan had strange bruises along their backs and shoulders, dark purple marks in patterns that didn't make sense, almost like fingerprints. But none of them remembered falling. None of them remembered being touched. 3:30 a.m. The Silver Star resumed her original course, but a heavy unease blanketed the ship. The crew spoke in hushed tones. It wasn't just the burns. It was the feeling. A coldness that had clung to them even after leaving the ghost ship. The radios crackled with static. Lights flickered. The engine stuttered once, something that had never happened before. Captain Baker didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in men. And weapons. And reason. But when he stood on the bridge that night, watching the mist curl across the black water, even he felt it. A presence. Watching. Waiting. 4 a.m. The first real sign came from the lower deck. Seaman Adams, a tough, no-nonsense type, stumbled onto the main deck, pale and shaking. He babbled about hearing voices coming from the cargo hold. Whispers. Calling him by name. Not loud, he said. Like they were already inside my head. He begged the captain to turn the ship around to leave the strait. There's something in the water, he cried. They sedated him. But others started hearing it too. Muffled sounds like tapping from beneath the hull. The same tapping Turner had heard in the Ourang Medan's cargo hold. 5 a.m. Turner tried to sleep in his bunk. But as he drifted into uneasy dreams, he heard it. Faint scratching. Coming from inside the walls. He sat up, heart racing. Was it rats? The ship's metal groaning? Or something else? He pressed his ear to the bulkhead. Whispers. Low. Indistinct. But unmistakable. He jerked back in terror. The whispers spoke in a language he didn't know. A guttural, ancient cadence that made the hair on his neck stand up. He wasn't dreaming. The ship had brought something back. Later that day, an emergency meeting. Captain Baker, Turner, Dr. Harris, and the senior officers met in the mess hall. The crew was on edge. Some men refused to go below decks. 2 more claimed to have seen shadows moving across the water's surface. Harris slammed his medical folder onto the table. This isn't mass hysteria. I've treated these men. Their injuries are real. And whatever it is, it's spreading. Turner nodded grimly, showing the new marks on his arms. The burns had deepened, now looking like intricate sigils carved into his flesh. I think we brought something back with us, he said. Captain Baker narrowed his eyes. Or someone. Turner remembered it now. As he ran from the cargo hold, he thought he had seen something low to the ground, moving fast, but not human. A thing of shadows and mist, too quick to comprehend. It hadn't made a sound, but it had watched him. And maybe, just maybe, it had followed him. Nightfall, 2000 hours. The Silver Star sailed blindly through the fog. No stars. No moon. The ship felt trapped in a cocoon of darkness. Then, another SOS signal crackled through the radio. Not from a distant ship. From somewhere close. Too close. The radio operator recoiled from his headset. It's them, he whispered. It's the Ourang Medan. Captain Baker rushed to the bridge. The signal repeated over and over. Mayday. Mayday. This is the Ourang Medan. Impossible. The ship was gone. They had watched it burn, sink. But the radio showed a bearing. A single point on the water only 2 nautical miles ahead. And it was moving toward them. Fast. Turner grabbed binoculars and peered into the night. There. On the horizon, a faint, glowing silhouette of a ship. Wrong size, wrong shape, not like any freighter they knew. It floated impossibly above the waterline, distorted by the mist. His deck's empty but somehow aware, and just for a second, Turner thought he saw figures on the deck. Watching, waiting. The Silver Star's engines roared as Baker ordered full reverse. But it was too late. The ghost ship was coming. Straight for them. June 1947, the Strait of Malacca. The Silver Star churned desperately through the black waters, engines roaring in protest. Behind them, the phantom ship loomed closer. No radio answers. No signal besides the endless, broken SOS crackling through the airwaves. Mayday! Mayday! This is the Ourang Medan. Over and over, Captain Baker barked orders. Full throttle. Get us the hell out of here. But the engines groaned under the strain, coughing smoke into the mist. Turner stood on deck, staring back at the glowing outline. It was wrong. The ship didn't ride the waves. It floated just above them, impossibly, and on its decks the ghostly figures moved, jerky, unnatural, flickering like broken film reels. Watching, waiting. On board, 2100 hours. The crew scrambled. Men crossed themselves, muttered prayers, gripped anything solid. Seaman Adams, the first to hear the whispers, collapsed on the deck, screaming. They're coming for us. They're inside already. Dr. Harris sedated him again, but Turner noticed something chilling. Adams' pupils had shrunk to pinpricks. His fingernails were torn and bleeding, as if he had tried to claw his own ears shut. Turner felt the itch return, the burning under his own skin. It spread now, creeping up his arms to his chest. He caught his reflection in a metal panel. For a heartbeat, he didn't see his own eyes. He saw black, endless pits, staring back at him. He stumbled away, heart pounding. Bridge, 2115. Captain Baker stood at the helm, jaw clenched, staring dead ahead. Something's wrong, he muttered. The charts were useless. The compass spun lazily, refusing to point north. The mist thickened, curling into strange shapes, almost like hands reaching for the ship. Turner burst onto the bridge. Sir, we need to shut down all electrical systems. Radios, engines, everything. Baker turned to him sharply. Are you insane? The transmissions, the whispers, they're coming through the electronics, Turner said, voice hoarse. They're using it. They're pulling us in. The captain hesitated. Logic told him it was madness. But deep inside, something primitive screamed. Listen to him. Do it, he barked. Kill the power. Darkness. The Silver Star went dead silent. No engines. No lights. Only the slap of waves against the hull and the thundering of terrified hearts. For a moment, the mist thinned. The ghost ship faltered, slowing its approach. The figures on its decks wavered, flickering like dying flames. It was working. Then, bang! A thunderous crash rocked the ship. Screams erupted from below deck. Someone had sabotaged the engine room. The emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in a sickly red glow. The ghost ship surged forward again. Closer now, only a few hundred meters away. The figures were clearer. Twisted faces, empty eyes, hands reaching. Lower decks, 2130. Turner sprinted below. The crew stumbled around in chaos. A fire had broken out in the secondary engine room, and on the walls, scrawled in blackened soot, was the same phrase Turner had seen aboard the Ourang Medan. Death awaits. But now there was more. You cannot run. You are already mine. His blood ran cold. Flashback. Turner remembered the cargo hold, the broken crates, the strange, metallic smell, and the hidden box he hadn't dared to open. What if it wasn't cargo? What if it was something worse? Turner's discovery, 2200 hours. Back in the infirmary, Turner rummaged through Harris's bag. Among the supplies brought back from the Ourang Medan was a small notebook, water-stained, almost ruined, written in a strange, blocky script. Dutch. Turner didn't speak it well, but he could recognize a few words. Experiment. Gas. Containment failure. Quarantine. His hands shook as he flipped through the pages. Drawings. Not cargo. People. Strapped down. Masks over their faces. Notes scribbled beside them. Test subjects. Final phase. Subjects display extreme aggression, telepathic effects, hallucinations. Exposure to gas causes irreversible contamination. Gas. The Ourang Medan had been carrying illegal chemical weapons, experimental neurotoxins, banned even during wartime, and it had leaked. Whatever they had found aboard wasn't just death. It was a force, a living nightmare, and now it had spread to them. Deck 2215. Turner stumbled back onto the deck, clutching the notebook. The ghost ship loomed within shouting distance now. The figures on the deck weren't just watching anymore. They were moving, climbing over the invisible gap between ships, crossing on waves of mist, coming for them. Turner turned to shout a warning, but the words caught in his throat. Seaman Adams stood before him, but Adams' face was wrong. His mouth stretched wider than it should. His eyes blackened into deep voids, and from that impossible mouth, the whispers poured out. In Turner's own voice, "You should have stayed on the water. You should have left them to die. Now you will join them." Adams, or the thing inside him, lunged, and all around Turner, the mist closed in. June 1947, aboard the Silver Star. The thing wearing Seaman Adams' face lunged. Turner dove aside, barely avoiding the twisted claws that had once been human hands. He hit the deck hard, the notebook from the Ourang Medan skidding across the planks. Adams, no, the thing let out a shriek. Not human. Not even animal. It sounded like steel tearing against steel. The mist thickened around it, swirling as if alive, feeding off the ship's terror. Other crew members screamed. Turner scrambled to his feet. All around the deck, shapes were forming in the fog. Dark outlines, staggering toward the living. The dead sailors of the Ourang Medan had come back, and they were hungry. The fight for survival, 22-20. Captain Baker barked orders, rallying the men. Form up. Weapons ready. But gunfire meant nothing. One crewman fired a full clip into a mist-wreathed figure. It didn't even flinch. It simply kept walking. A hollow-eyed shadow in the shape of a man. Turner knew. This wasn't a battle they could win. This was a curse. An infection. Medical Bay 2230. Turner dragged the barely conscious Adams into the infirmary, slamming the door behind him. Dr. Harris was already treating 2 injured crewmen, but their wounds weren't normal. One man's veins pulsed visibly under his skin, black as tar. Another's eyes had turned milky white, tears of blood leaking down his cheeks. "It's the gas," Harris whispered. "It's inside them." Turner slammed the Ourang Medan's notebook onto the table. "It's not just gas," he said. "It's alive. It's using the gas to spread itself." Harris flipped frantically through the ruined pages. Words leapt out. Neurotoxins. Hallucinations. Aggression. Contamination through breath, skin contact. "We have to quarantine the infected," Turner said. "There's no time," Harris snapped. "It's already too late." The mutation, 2245. The man on the cot let out a strangled gasp. His body convulsed. Bones cracked audibly. His arms twisted at wrong angles. His spine arched unnaturally. And then he smiled. An awful, broken smile, skin splitting at the corners of his mouth. "You belong to us now," the thing said in a voice that wasn't his. Turner grabbed Harris and yanked him backward as the creature lunged from the bed, snapping its teeth like a rabid animal. They fled into the corridor, slamming the infirmary door behind them. A thud. Another. The door buckled. "We have to get to the cargo bay," Turner gasped. "There's still a lifeboat." "We'll never make it," Harris said, pale. But there was no other choice. Below decks, 2300 hours. The ship was a nightmare. The mist filled every corridor, obscuring vision, muting sound. Figures flickered at the edge of the fog, sometimes human, sometimes not. Turner gripped the broken metal pipe he had found. Useless against them, but it made him feel less helpless. They raced through the maze of the lower decks, heading toward the cargo bay. Everywhere they passed, they saw more signs of infection. Crewmen twitching on the ground, muttering nonsense. Men clawing at their own faces. Shadows that whispered as they passed. Turner's burns itched terribly now, burning hotter with every step. He could feel it in his veins. The gas, the curse, whatever it was trying to take root. But he fought it. He had to. Cargo Bay 2315. They burst into the cargo bay. It was worse than Turner remembered. The mist pooled thickly here, churning around broken crates. And something stood in the center of the bay. Something massive. The real cargo. A huge sealed container bolted to the deck. Its surface was covered in warnings, but not in English. Dutch, German, symbols Turner didn't recognize. Through a small cracked window, Turner glimpsed it. A swirling black vapor, alive and hungry. The gas, the heart of the infection, the source. We have to sink the ship, Harris said quietly, horror dawning in his eyes. Before it reaches the mainland. How? Turner rasped. Engine room. Overload the boilers. Detonate the fuel tanks. It was suicide. But if they didn't, the infection would spread across the world. Final chase, 23:30. They sprinted for the engine room. Behind them, the mist shifted violently. Figures rose from the cargo bay. Grotesque parodies of men. Their faces stretched into leering grins. Their hands outstretched. And the whispers grew louder. Join us. Join us. Join us. Turner and Harris burst into the engine room. Flames licked at the walls. The earlier sabotage had damaged the fuel lines. Perfect. Turner shoved Harris toward the escape hatch. Get to the lifeboat. Now. What about you? Go. Harris hesitated, then fled. Turner stayed. He knew he was already contaminated. His veins felt like fire. His thoughts blurred at the edges. But he would finish this. He had to. Turner ripped open the control panels. Sparks flew. Warning alarms blared. The boilers began to overheat, redlining dangerously. The ship groaned, metal buckling under the rising pressure. The ghost ship outside wailed, a sound of rage and loss. The figures screamed, a chorus of agony. Turner gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay conscious as the whispers clawed at his mind. Just a few more minutes. Just a little longer. And he would burn it all. June 1947, aboard the Silver Star. The engine room shook violently. Pipes burst. Steam hissed. Flames raced along the fuel lines like living things. Turner braced himself against the console. The gauges screamed into the red. The boilers would rupture at any second. And when they did, the Silver Star would take the Ourang Medan's curse with it. Turner allowed himself a small, grim smile. For the first time since stepping onto that ghost ship, he felt control slip back into his hands. This would end with him. Not with the world. Not with the innocent. The mist closes in 23:45. The mist thickened, boiling into the engine room like a living thing. It coiled around Turner's legs, tugging at him, whispering. Voices. Hundreds of them. Not words anymore, memories. His childhood. His mother's voice. The first time he had stood on a ship's deck. They weren't attacking him now. They were begging. Stay. Stay with us. It doesn't have to hurt. You can see them again. He squeezed his eyes shut. Tears burned tracks down his face. He wasn't stupid. He knew he would die here. But he would die free. The infected came. Through the mist, shambling, twitching, grinning. They weren't human anymore. Sailors with broken spines, snapped limbs, faces twisted into permanent, frozen smiles. They surrounded Turner, blocking the exits. No way out. He grabbed a heavy wrench, ready to fight to the last breath. But then, they stopped. They parted. And something worse stepped through. A figure. Human-shaped, but wrong. Too tall. Arms too long. A face that flickered between familiar and alien features, thousands of stolen identities shifting like smoke. It stared at him with empty sockets. And spoke without moving its mouth. We offered you mercy, it said. You chose pain. Turner tightened his grip on the wrench. Burn in hell, he growled. The detonation, 23:55. The first boiler exploded. A shockwave ripped through the engine room, throwing Turner against the bulkhead. Flames raced through the lower decks. The mist ignited, not with fire, but with a sickening green glow. The creature shrieked, a sound that cracked the air itself, and disintegrated into smoke. The ship shuddered. Metal tore apart. In the final moments, Turner crawled to the main fuel valve. With shaking hands, he wrenched it open. Fuel flooded the room. He pulled a flare from his belt, lit it, and smiled. For all of us, he whispered. Then he dropped it. From miles away, ships saw the fireball rip through the night sky. A bloom of red and green light erupted over the Strait of Malacca, visible for miles. The Silver Star and whatever had taken it was gone. The sea swallowed the wreckage. The mist dispersed. Silence returned. Or so it seemed. Dr. Harris drifted alone in a lifeboat, clutching the oars with blistered hands. He watched the burning remains of the Silver Star vanish into the darkness. He wept for Turner, for the crew, for everything lost. But he survived. And when the sun rose hours later, a rescue ship spotted him. He would live to tell the tale. Authorities questioned Harris for hours. He told them about the Ourang Medan, the ghost ship, the gas, the infection. They dismissed it as shock, hallucinations from chemical exposure, a tragic accident. The files were quietly sealed, the incident erased from official records, the Silver Star listed as lost at sea, the Ourang Medan marked as unknown. But Harris knew. He knew the truth. And worse, he carried a secret. Because when the doctors examined him, they found something strange. Tiny black veins beneath his skin, a faint mist escaping his breath on cold mornings. And sometimes, when Harris looked into a mirror, he didn't see his own reflection. He saw Turner's face, mouthing silent words. "You didn't escape. You just brought it with you." 1948, 1 year later. In a quiet town in New England, strange reports began. Whispers in the night, a shadowy figure seen near the docks. People falling sick, eyes blackened, veins twisting. And late one evening, a fisherman's radio picked up a signal. "Mayday, Mayday, this is the Ourang Medan." October 1948, New Harbor, Maine. The town of New Harbor slept under heavy autumn fog. Fishing boats bobbed quietly in the harbor, their lights casting golden halos on the still water. It was a town of secrets. Generations of fishermen, shipbuilders, and smugglers had lived and died here. And some said the sea still claimed its due. But no one was ready for what came next. The first signs. It started with the radios. Late one night, a young radio operator named Eddie Marr was finishing his shift at the coastal station. Static buzzed endlessly over the frequencies. Then, faint broken, he caught it. A transmission. Old. Distorted. "Mayday, Mayday, this is the Ourang Medan." Eddie frowned. He flipped through his registry. No ship by that name had been active for years, if it had ever existed at all. He adjusted the tuner. The signal grew stronger. "All officers dead. Chart room and bridge. I die." The hairs on Eddie's neck stood up. He slammed the radio off, but the voice kept coming. Low, whispering. Now not from the speakers, but from inside the room. Eddie stumbled out into the cold night, heart hammering. The fog swallowed him. No one ever saw him again. By the end of the week, 3 fishermen vanished. Their boats found adrift, nets tangled in impossible knots. Cabin doors smashed open, from the inside, and always, that faint trace of mist lingering on the decks, clinging to the wood. Locals whispered that the town was cursed, that something had come in on the tide. But the sheriff shrugged it off. Probably smugglers, probably a storm, until the dreams started. It began subtly, nightmares. Almost everyone in New Harbor complained of vivid, horrifying dreams, of being trapped in a sinking ship, a black water rushing into their lungs, of voices whispering from the mist, a shadowy figures reaching for them from behind cracked doors. Some woke screaming, some refused to sleep at all, and a few never woke up again. Doctors called it mass psychogenic illness, mass hysteria, but the old fisherman knew better. "It's the sea," one muttered, nursing a bottle of rum. "It's hungry again." The new characters. A Clara Dane, a sharp, skeptical reporter sent to New Harbor to cover the strange events. Deputy Sam Colby, one of the few officers who believes something supernatural is happening. Old Man Carver, a retired sailor who survived something decades ago and knows the truth. Clara wasn't here to chase ghost stories. She wanted facts, evidence. But what she found was something far worse. Old Man Carver's story. Clara tracked Carver down to a crumbling shack near the cliffs. He smelled of salt, pipe smoke, and something older. When she mentioned the Ourang Medan, he turned white. "You heard it too," he whispered. "The signal." Clara nodded cautiously. Carver leaned in, voice trembling. "They thought they could burn it, sink it, but you can't kill what's already dead. The gas, the mist, it's not natural. It's not from here. It's alive, and it wants out." Clara scoffed. "You're telling me an evil ghost mist is attacking the town?" Carver's eyes darkened. "Not ghost girl," he rasped. "Parasite. And it wears the dead like clothes. It needs a ship to carry it, or people. Looks like this time it found both." That night, the radio tower lit up again. The same broken message, but now clearer, more urgent. Mayday, Mayday, this is the Ourang Medan. We are not dead. We are coming. The last part wasn't part of the original message. It was new, adapted, changing. Deputy Colby burst into the station. "Shut it down," he shouted. But it was too late. The mist rolled down from the hills, and in the fog, shapes moved. The first attack. It struck the docks first. Fishermen heard tapping against their hulls. Soft at first, then louder, insistent. Those who went to investigate vanished. Those who stayed behind heard screams echo across the water. When the fog lifted at dawn, all that remained were broken boats and twisted nets, and faint footprints leading into the sea. Clara and Colby stood on the bluff, staring out at the ruined docks. In the mist, barely visible, they saw a shape. A ship, ancient, rotting, floating just offshore. Its deck's empty, its name half erased by time. But they could still make it out. Just enough. Ourang Medan. And from the radio tower behind them, the signal rose again. Louder, clearer. "You cannot run. You cannot hide. You are already ours." October 1948, New Harbor, Maine. By dawn, New Harbor was no longer a town. It was a graveyard. The mist didn't leave with the morning sun. Thickened, swallowing streets, homes, the docks. The fishermen's boats sat abandoned, rocking in the water. The radios across town buzzed with static, then faint, broken whispers. "Come to the sea. It's safe here. Join us." And those who listened too long, those who leaned too close to the crackling radios, were never seen again. Clara and Deputy Colby, 6 a.m. Clara Dane gripped the steering wheel of her rented car, knuckles white. Deputy Sam Colby sat beside her, shotgun resting across his lap. They drove slowly through town, headlights cutting small holes in the mist. "Where is everyone?" Clara whispered. Colby shook his head, face grim. "Gone. Or hiding. Or worse." A radio sat between them, volume low. It buzzed constantly, a background hum of despair. Every few minutes, the same haunting broadcast cut through. "Mayday, Mayday, this is the Ourang Medan. We are not dead. We are waiting." They turned onto Main Street and saw them, dozens of townspeople, standing silently in the mist, faces slack, eyes hollow. Clara slammed on the brakes. The townsfolk didn't react. They just stood there, as if waiting for something. Colby lowered his window an inch, shotgun ready. "Clara," he said slowly, "don't make any sudden moves." Clara stared in horror. Their skin was pale, almost translucent. Veins darkened under their flesh, spiderwebbing across their bodies. Their mouths moved silently, whispering, but not with their own voices. The voices spoke in perfect unison, a deep, guttural drone. "You cannot leave. You belong to the mist. You belong to us. The chase begins." Colby shouted, "Go!" Clara floored it. The car roared forward. The townsfolk lunged, unnaturally fast, faces splitting into grotesque smiles. Hands slapped against the car windows, the glass spiderwebbed with cracks. Clara weaved wildly, dodging figures in the mist. They sped toward the hills outside town, the only place untouched by fog. But the mist was relentless. It rolled after them, swirling and coiling like fingers reaching for their tires. The hilltop, 6:30 a.m. They reached the old lighthouse at the edge of town. It sat atop a rocky bluff, overlooking the endless, gray ocean. The perfect vantage point, the perfect last stand. They barricaded the doors with furniture from the keeper's house. Colby checked his shotgun. Clara checked the old revolver they had found in a drawer. 6 bullets. Maybe enough. Probably not. Old Man Carver returns. As they secured the lighthouse, a figure stumbled out of the mist. Colby raised his shotgun. "Wait!" Clara cried. It was Old Man Carver, bleeding, limping, but alive. "They're coming," he gasped. "The town. The whole damn town taken." He collapsed against the doorway, coughing violently. Clara helped him inside. "We have to end it," Carver rasped, "before it spreads further." "How?" Colby demanded. "We can't fight the mist." Carver shook his head. "Not the mist. The ship. The Ourang Medan is the anchor, the gate. Destroy it, and maybe you can sever the connection." Clara's mind raced. "But how? It's offshore." Carver's bloodshot eyes locked onto hers. "There's a tunnel. From the cliffs. Smugglers' tunnels. Leads right under the harbor. Get close enough. Plant explosives. Sink that ghost bastard once and for all." The plan. It was insane. Impossible. Probably suicide. But it was their only shot. Clara and Colby made a quick plan. Sneak through the old smugglers' tunnels. Get under the Ourang Medan's spectral anchor point. Use stolen dynamite from the quarry. Colby grimaced. "I didn't sign up to blow up a ghost ship," he muttered. "Welcome to New Harbor," Clara said darkly. Into the tunnels, 7 a.m. The lighthouse basement housed an old storm cellar door. Behind it, the tunnels. Carver had shown them the way, dragging a bloody finger across a dusty map before passing out from exhaustion. Clara and Colby geared up. Flashlights, weapons, a crate of dynamite strapped between them. They descended into the darkness. The stone tunnels twisted and turned, damp and claustrophobic. Their footsteps echoed. Behind them, faintly, they heard it, tapping. First soft, then louder, closer, and whispers sliding along the walls. "Turn back. You belong to us. You cannot win." Colby muttered a prayer under his breath. Clara tightened her grip on the revolver. They pressed on. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the last chamber. A natural cavern opened up, the ceiling jagged with stone teeth. And above them, through a fissure in the rock, they saw it. The Ourang Medan. It floated impossibly over the harbor. Half real, half mist. Its decks teeming with figures. Dead sailors. Townsfolk. Children. All merged into one endless, writhing mass of suffering. A living monument to horror. Clara nearly gagged. "There," Colby said hoarsely, pointing. The base of the ship's spectral form shimmered at a single central point. An anchor of black mist tying it to this world. That was their target. Colby wired the dynamite. Clara set the timer. They had 60 seconds to run. As they turned to flee, the cavern around them exploded in motion. Figures poured from the walls. Mist-forged monstrosities. They lunged without sound. Faces twisted with eternal hunger. Clara screamed. Colby fired. And from the ship above, a voice louder than thunder roared. "You cannot escape. You are already ours." The mist surged downward, swallowing the tunnels whole, and the timer ticked down. October 1948, under the harbor, New Harbor, Maine. The dynamite timer ticked down. 60 seconds. Clara and Colby sprinted through the tunnels, the heavy air thick with mist and screams. Behind them, the dead followed. Not running, gliding. Mist-formed figures poured from the cavern walls, from the cracks, from the ceiling. Some wore the faces of people Clara had seen earlier that week. The dockmaster, the old woman from the market, the sheriff. Their faces twisted in mockery. Hands clawed at the air. Mouths gaped open, whispering, "You can't leave. You are already ours. Stay forever." The race against time 001. Colby fired blindly behind them, shotgun blasts booming through the tight stone tunnels. Each shot tore apart a figure, but when the mist dissipated, it simply reformed, stronger, closer. "They won't stop," Colby gasped. "They're part of it." Clara didn't answer. She focused on the faint outline of the exit ahead, a rusted metal ladder leading back up to the cliffs. 40 feet, maybe less, but the mist surged faster. Clara's lungs burned from the cold. Her vision blurred. Her legs grew heavier with every step. The infection was trying to slow her down. She felt it in her blood, in her mind. "Stay," the mist whispered. "Stay and be free." She stumbled. A hand caught her. "Colby, move," he shouted. Clara scrambled up the ladder, Colby right behind her. The rungs were slick with condensation. She slipped once, almost fell. A cold hand brushed her boot. Too real. She kicked downward blindly, connected with something, heard a shriek. She climbed faster. Above them, the moon struggled through the fog, casting a sickly silver light over the cliffs. The Ourang Medan floated offshore, its rotting hull shimmering, leaking black mist into the sky, and from it an unnatural sound, a heartbeat, slow, deep, alive, as if the ship itself was breathing, waiting. They reached the top just as the timer hit 0. For a fraction of a second, the world held its breath. Then, boom, the tunnels erupted. The ground beneath their feet buckled. A column of fire and mist shot into the sky, lighting the night with an unholy green glow. The cliffs trembled. The harbor exploded outward, sending waves crashing onto the shore. And the Ourang Medan, the ghost ship, screamed. The sound wasn't made by wood and metal. It was made by every soul trapped inside. The ship cracked down the middle. Black mist poured from the wounds, writhing like a wounded beast. The figures on the decks clawed at the air, shrieking, dissolving into vapor. And then it sank, dragged beneath the waves by unseen hands. Gone. Silence. The mist above the town began to thin. The whispering stopped. The heartbeat faded. For the first time in weeks, the stars broke through the clouds. Colby collapsed onto the grass, breathing hard. Clara fell beside him, staring up at the sky. "Did we do it?" she whispered. Colby didn't answer for a long moment. Then he nodded, exhausted. "I think so." The nightmare was over, or so they thought. 2 days later, Clara sat in the makeshift shelter they had built at the lighthouse. The town was nearly empty now. Most of the survivors had fled inland. No one spoke of what happened. No one wanted to. The government had already started sending men in black suits, black cars, black notebooks, covering it up, erasing New Harbor from the maps, just like they did with the Ourang Medan. Clara didn't care. She just wanted to forget. But deep down, she knew she never would. Started again late that night. She was sitting by the dying fire when a faint crackle buzzed from the old ship radio they had salvaged. She froze. The radio wasn't plugged in. It wasn't connected to anything. And still a crackle. Then a voice. Broken. Familiar. "Clara." Her blood ran cold. She leaned closer. "Clara, help us." It was Colby's voice. She stumbled to her feet, heart hammering. "Sam, we're still here. We're waiting. Come back." The fire guttered, casting long, twisted shadows across the walls. Clara backed away slowly, because in the reflection of the dark window, she saw Colby standing behind her, grinning, eyes black as midnight. The mist slithered back under the door. The heartbeat returned louder, faster. And from the dead radio, the final words crackled. "You can sink the ship. You can kill the crew. But you can never kill us." October 1948, Lighthouse Shelter, New Harbor, Maine. The mist was back, seeping under the doors, sliding through cracks in the windows. Clara backed away from the dead radio, heart hammering in her chest. In the reflection of the window, Colby, or what was left of him, grinned back at her. His mouth split unnaturally wide, black mist leaking from the corners. His eyes were bottomless wells of darkness. "Stay," he whispered in her voice. "You'll be safe here. Forever." Clara bolted. She crashed through the shelter's door into the cold night air. The lighthouse loomed above her, its beam spinning uselessly through the mist. Every breath burned her lungs. The infection was in the air again, thick, heavy, alive. But there was no one left to fight it now. No help coming. No way to run. The mist was inside her already. She could feel it moving through her blood, coiling around her thoughts. Clara stumbled along the rocky cliff edge, hands clutching her head. The whispers were deafening now, coming not from outside, but inside her mind. They told her the truth. They showed her memories that weren't hers. The Ourang Medan setting sail with its deadly cargo. The experimental gas leaking, infecting the crew. The desperate SOS calls, the betrayal by the shipping company that abandoned them. The crew's final moments, dying not of gas, but becoming hosts. The gas wasn't chemical. It wasn't even human. It was something ancient. Something that existed before mankind ever sailed the seas. And once released, it didn't need a ship. It needed only hosts. People. Bodies. Memories. Clara realized with horror. They hadn't stopped the infection by sinking the Ourang Medan. They had freed it. Now it wasn't trapped on a rotting ship. It was loose, feeding, learning, becoming stronger. And every survivor, every person who heard the whispers, breathed the mist, dreamed the dreams, carried it inside them. The infection was no longer tied to one place. It was a seed planted in blood and bone, growing, spreading, waiting. Old Man Carver's final warning. Through the swirling mist, Clara saw a flicker of movement. She turned, gun raised. It was Old Man Carver, barely recognizable. His skin was gray, stretched tight over his bones. But his eyes were clear, filled with a terrible, resigned knowledge. "It's too late," he rasped. "You can't fight it. You can only delay it. And when the time comes, you'll have to choose. Join it or burn everything down. Even yourself." Clara's throat closed in horror. Carver pointed shakily toward the harbor. "It's waking up again," he whispered. "The sea won't hold it forever. Not this time." Then he fell backward into the mist. Gone. Drawn by some instinct, Clara stumbled back down the ruined road toward the harbor. The mist parted just enough for her to see the water. There, rising from the deep, shimmering under the broken moonlight. The Ourang Medan. Not rotted now. Not spectral. But whole. Rebuilt from mist and memory. Crewed by the lost. Their faces blank, staring. Waiting. The ship wasn't a wreck anymore. It was a vessel. A new, perfect carrier for the infection. And it was calling her. The whispers grew louder. "Clara, come aboard. Join us. Be free." Tears streamed down Clara's face. She knew if she stepped into the water, if she boarded the ship, she would become part of it. Her memories, her mind, her soul, all consumed. She would lose herself, but she would also stop fighting. No more pain, no more fear, no more loneliness. Just endless, perfect silence. The mist curled around her ankles like a lover's caress. She took one trembling step forward, and then, something inside her, the last sliver of Clara Dane, screamed. No, not like this. Not without a fight. She staggered back, tearing herself away from the mist's embrace. The whispers shrieked in fury. The Ourang Medan's ghostly horn bellowed across the harbor. The ship surged forward. The mist rose higher. The figures on deck reached out for her. She ran. Clara stumbled into the ruins of the lighthouse. The mist slammed against the old stone walls like a tidal wave. The radio crackled violently, spewing out broken voices, hundreds, thousands of them, all calling her name. She fell to her knees, blood streaming from her nose, her ears. Above her, the lighthouse beacon sputtered. One final surge of strength left in it. One final chance. And Clara knew. She had to make the final sacrifice. Or there would be no stopping it. Not here. Not anywhere. October 1948, Lighthouse Ruins, New Harbor, Maine. The mist battered the lighthouse walls like a living storm. Clara knelt in the center of the old tower, bleeding, shaking, fighting the growing infection inside her. The Ourang Medan floated offshore, rebuilt from death and memory. Its horn bellowed again, low, mournful, pulling at her mind, her soul. The whispers inside her head grew louder. Join us. It hurts now, but it won't hurt forever. You will be complete. The radio crackled. The floorboards groaned. The lighthouse beacon flickered, the last light in a drowning world. Clara clutched the flare gun she had scavenged from the storage closet. One shot left. One chance. The plan. The infection was too deep to run from now. It was in her blood, her bones. If she ran, if she survived, she would carry it inland, into new towns, into new bodies. The world would fall piece by piece, unless she ended it here. Now, she had to destroy the Ourang Medan. Not just sink it, obliterate it, break its anchor to this world, even if it meant destroying herself too. Clara dragged herself up the spiral staircase of the lighthouse. Every step felt like moving through cement. The mist inside her tried to stop her, twisting her vision, flooding her mind with false memories. She saw her parents waving from the stairs, her childhood dog barking happily at the landing. Stay, the mist whispered. You're home. Tears blinded her. She shoved the visions aside and kept climbing. At the top, the ancient beacon sputtered weakly. A broken mirror, a cracked lens, but the heart of it still beat, still pulsed, still had power. Clara knew what she had to do. She jammed the flare gun between two gears, wedging it at just the right angle. She found the beacon's emergency fuel valve, turned it. The smell of kerosene filled the air. The light flared briefly, painfully bright. She wired the flare trigger to a broken clock mechanism. A crude timer. 1 minute, just long enough to send a final signal. One final blaze. Clara staggered to the radio. The mist swirled around her, shrieking in rage. She keyed the mic. Her voice crackled over the airwaves. "This is Clara Dane. New Harbor is lost. If you can hear this, stay away, destroy any ship you see, don't let them board." A pause. The mist howled louder, battering the tower. "And if you hear a voice calling your name, if you hear the Ourang Medan, run." She dropped the mic. The timer ticked down. The flare gun shuddered in its mount. The mist parted one final time. Across the water, Clara saw them. The townsfolk, the fishermen, Colby, Carver, all standing on the decks of the Ourang Medan, waiting, smiling, welcoming her home. The ship itself pulsed an enormous, beating heart. Waiting, starving, ready. The timer hit 0. The flare gun fired. The fuel ignited instantly. The beacon exploded into a roaring sun, blasting pure, blinding light across the harbor. The mist shrieked in agony. The Ourang Medan writhed, its form breaking apart, vaporizing piece by piece under the merciless glare. The figures on deck burned like paper, dissolving into nothingness. The ship screamed, a sound of rage, sorrow, and endless hunger, before imploding into the sea, vanishing without a trace. The mist boiled away under the power of the light, and Clara Dane smiled one last time before the fire took her. They found New Harbor weeks later, or what was left of it, a burned-out lighthouse, abandoned streets, no survivors. The government sealed the area, declared it a chemical spill, a forgotten tragedy. The radios stayed silent for a while. 10 years later, 1960, a fishing boat in the Pacific picks up a faint distress call on an old frequency. The voice is broken, distant, almost lost. "Mayday! Mayday! This is the Ourang Medan. We float. All crew dead." The captain frowns. There's no ship in sight. No land for hundreds of miles. Only mist. Thick. Unnatural. Rising on the horizon. And from the mist, the silhouette of a ship. Waiting. Smiling.